I'm Jason Cook. With over 20 years of experience as a professional trainer, coach, and clinician in the equine industry, I've had the privilege of dedicating thousands of hours to perfecting my craft. Now I'm excited to share my expertise with you through this podcast. We will explore some of my past experiences as well as those of other individuals to provide you with a wealth of knowledge and insights to enhance your journey. Whether you are a novice or an experienced horseman, this podcast will offer valuable perspectives to help you achieve success. Today I have Stan Patton with me. He's up by Monette, Missouri, and I ran into Stan. I think the first time I had actually ran into him was at Buckskin World in Tulsa, and I knew of him because he's been right here in the area since I've started training horses. I've always known of Patton quarter horses up here on 37 Highway, but there was this guy at the World Show, and I told my wife, I said, I don't think he sleeps. I said, every time I see him, he's walking 500 miles an hour and he's headed out to lunge another horse outside. And it was hot. You know, a few years there, it was really, really hot.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew right then he was a hard worker. And through getting to knowing him a little more, little did I know, I didn't even get started on that. I mean, there was much more to his work ethic and how he came about. So thanks for coming on with me today and
Sure.
And showing me around your place. I've been here for about 15, 20 minutes and you've showed me around. You have a nice facility here in Stall Barn and you have Patton quarter horses here. Is that what you call it?
We do. Yep.
And so how'd Stan get started? Let's go back to childhood. I mean, are you from here and what's that look like?
You know, I was born and raised here in Monette. My folks are originally from Monette as well.
Okay.
And ever since I was a young child, my folks had a few horses, not very many, but we always had a couple of horses around the house, and it was something that I kind of grew up with and really enjoyed being around them and being around the people that had them. Uh-huh. And I knew one day when I grew up and got married that this is what I would like to do. Uh-huh. And I was very fortunate to meet a lady that in college that had the same passion that I had. Uh-huh. And so we formed Patton Quarter Horses once we grew up and moved back to Monette. I went to college at Pittsburgh State University, and she's from Humboldt, Kansas.
Okay.
But we met in college. And she was a horse lady as well. Didn't really have train type horses that she is trail rode and that type of thing. But we really meshed well together, and we both had the same commitments and same desires and same wants. And so that's kind of how we got together and formed Patton Quarter Horses after we grew up and got out of school.
Okay. And then in high school, you said you went to Monette?
I did. I went to Monette.
Any sports or?
Yeah, I was a three-sport guy.
Really?
I played football.
Okay.
Actually, my senior year, we were state champions in football. That was in 1977, long time ago.
The year I was born.
Yeah, a long time ago. But we were state champions, and that's what took me to college as a football scholarship. But I also ran track, and I wrestled, and we were third in the state in the 2-mile relay team, so I ran a half a mile in that. So I was always involved in sports and always involved in competition. Uh-huh. And the competition is what drives me to do what we do. Uh-huh. And so the work ethic that my folks put into us, or to my brother and I, and the commitment to different things, not to just bail out on the first thing that goes wrong. They instilled a lot of good work ethic and a lot of good hard things that we live by.
Yes.
And so, but yeah, I did all the sports in school.
Yeah, I always learn something about somebody. I had no idea you went to college on a football scholarship.
I did. I was a running back
running back.
I was a running back and I was a 1,000-yard rusher in college and at Pitt State. Uh-huh. And so it was a fun time. That was a fun time of year for me. And I mean, I'm not in the condition that I was then, but the desire to do things and to do your best and to play hard and work hard,
it carried over.
It carried over. You know, that all comes from your parents and your upbringing, and that just carries through life.
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of parents get lost on sports, what they're really the biggest purpose is on it.
Sure.
Because myself, if it wasn't for basketball and all my struggles through it,
Sure.
and in high school,
Yep.
I would have quit horses a long time ago. But it allows you to overcome things
It does.
and adversity and see that you can do it.
Sure.
And it builds confidence.
There's a lot of ups and downs with sports. There's a high and there's a low, and you have to learn to be resilient and to bounce back and to keep going forward and keep trying hard and learn from a mistake and improve yourself. All of those things are so important in life. Because life can be difficult. And
it is difficult.
It is difficult.
Yeah. And if it's not, just wait, it will be.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Give it time.
That's right.
Yeah. So what'd you major in?
I got a business degree.
Business degree.
Yep. And with a business degree, you can do all kinds of things. But for me, I become a salesman. I sold industrial chemicals after I graduated from college, and we lived in Pittsburgh, and Southwest Missouri was my territory. And so I sold anything from cleaning supplies, grease and oil, any lubricants. I could go to a hospital and call on all them people. I could go to a garage and call on those people and sell them something. We had thousands of different items, and our company was based in Texas, so we would go for training, and I learned how to talk to people and how to convince somebody to try your product and to persevere, because there's a lot of no's before you get into yes. And so you learn all those things, and you learn how to bounce back and how to handle adversity. But yeah, I was a chemical salesman for like 5 years, and then after that, then we moved back to Monette. Linda got a teaching job at Purdy, and so that enabled me to move back to my hometown. And so that's kind of how we landed back at Monette from Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Okay. Now, as far as horses, before we get into you starting this business here and everything, and where did the horses start in your life? How old were you, and how did that all start?
As a child, as a young child, Dad kind of dabbled with the cutting horses a little bit.
Really?
And believe it or not, my brother and I, we become the calves. We would run and stop and cut back and do all this kind of stuff for the horse, because we didn't have any cattle at that time. And so, in order for him to train at home, we would try to help him do that.
That's why you were a good running back.
I guess. I don't know. But on the weekends, we would load the horse up and we would go to people that had cattle, and he would work his horse on those. But yeah, I grew up with the horses. The Western pleasure thing is something that I really loved. And so back then, one horse did everything.
Yes.
If you had a 2-horse trailer, that's plenty of space to put 2 horses in. And when you got to the horse show, he did halter, he did showmanship, he did Western pleasure, he did egg and spoon pleasure, he did reining, he did everything. One horse done it all. Now it's so much different. They specialize more. One horse might be a halter horse. The next horse might be a Western pleasure horse. But back then, if you had one pretty decent animal, he could do all that stuff and did all that stuff. So, but yeah, I grew up with it as a young child and had that bug, and it just kept growing and revolved as I got older.
So did that get you into the showing world then, or was that later?
I showed a lot when I was a youngster as well.
You did?
Yeah, they would throw me on some of those things, and it might go good and it might not go so good. But I hung in there. I fell off a few times. That's just part of it. But yeah, I did. I got to show quite a bit as a young child, and we had a lot of different horses as I was growing up. So I kind of got to get some skills to myself, and as far as like the training, I would watch people, and I couldn't drive at that time, but I would watch the best people and see how they did things. And I'd want to go to the show early so I could sit on the side and watch people work their horses before the show and kind of see what they did and how they did it. And so I knew at a young age that's kind of what I wanted to do. I just wasn't able to get there until I got older.
Right. And you guys didn't have a trainer you worked with, or you guys just kind of went as a family?
We went as a family. We'd load up in a pickup, and 4 of us would get in a single cab pickup, and we'd go to the shows.
You bet.
And that's just what we did. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And so it was a fun time, and it was a family time.
Yes.
And we all were involved in it.
Okay.
So.
All right, and then you had to have taken a hiatus because you went to college.
I did.
And football would have kept you very busy.
It did.
At that level.
They wouldn't allow you to come home very often.
Okay.
Especially during season. So we would call. They would call our folks in the evenings and things like that. They came to all the football games. It didn't matter where the games were held. They would go. So as a family, we always stayed close knit, but I just wasn't able to do any horse things because my commitment was so involved in that sport.
Yes,
and that's just the way it was.
I see. Okay, so we're out of college. We have a business degree, and you've met your wife.
Yep.
Right.
You're right.
And so, what now?
After Linda graduated. She's 3 years younger than I am. And so after she got out of school and graduated, she got the teaching position at Purdy to teach third grade. And so that allowed us to move back to Monette from Pittsburgh. And so we rented a trailer house from my grandparents, and we moved into that. And she started teaching, and I was a salesman on the road at that time, selling chemicals. And so we did that for several years, 4 or 5 years. And then after that, this farm came up for sale. Mm-hmm. And so I told her, I said, that's a big jump for us, but I think we might be able to swing it. And this was just a dairy farm at the time, mm-hmm. and 50-acre dairy farm. And so we ended up purchasing the farm, and we moved out here, and it was a few years before we could have enough money to fix up the house and things like that. But little by little, we started doing that. And I had a little barn over next door that has 2 stalls in it. We put 2 stalls in there, and that was my training barn. I just had 2 stalls, but I could take 2 horses. And so I would ride a couple of horses in the evenings along with my job. Uh-huh. And little by little, people started asking for more training. Different horses wanted to come in. And so I told Linda, I said, one of these days we got to build a barn. Uh-huh. And she said, "You're crazy." She said, "I don't think we can do this." And I said, "Well, just look at the people that are asking, mm-hmm. that there's a need here in this area." And so we talked to several bankers and got some ideas, and we had a kind of a plan of what we would like to have. And, your eyes are a lot of times bigger than what your wallet is. And that kind of was the case here. And we would talk to different bankers, and I had good credit, but I didn't have the type of credit that they really needed to build a facility like this. Mm-hmm. But lo and behold, one of my old football coaches was in the banking business, and he knew me from a young boy. And he said, "Stan," he said, "you come up with a plan on how you're going to make your payments and how you're going to do this and how many horses it takes to do all this." And he said, "I'll try to help you." And so that's kind of how it all got started. I presented him with an idea. I presented him with a plan of the facility that we would like to build, and the price it was going to cost us, and how much I could charge to train, and all this put together. And he said, "What are you going to use for collateral?" And I said, "I'll put my farm up." And he looked at me and he said, "You understand what that means?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "It'll work." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Let's do it." And so we hired a construction crew, and they came in and they built this facility. And we started out with 8 stalls. And I would work night and day. Mm-hmm. Every time I'd get off of work, I was out in the barn. We had 2 children at the time, and Linda would give riding lessons. After she was done with riding lessons, I would take over and start riding horses. And those 8 stalls have now turned into 23 stalls. But it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of hours and a lot of late nights. And
both of you had full-time jobs. She was a school teacher.
She was a school teacher.
So she gave lessons after school.
After school.
And you were a salesman.
Yes.
And you came home.
I'd get home 5 o'clock or so, mm-hmm. 5:30, and she'd start do her lessons first, her riding lessons. And she would have anywhere from 6 to 8 different kids that would come, sometimes more. And so we had to have lesson horses. And so she she got hers out of the way, then she could go take care of our kids at the house and take care of them for the evening. And then I would stay in the barn and do the training on the horses that we had here. And there was many, many nights that it would be 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30, that I'd quit. And, you get back up at 6 o'clock the next morning and you start over.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. And that's just that was the way we had to do it. Mm-hmm. That was our life. And I felt like I had a noose around my neck because if we didn't make this thing happen and if we didn't make this thing work, somebody else would own it.
Yes.
But our desire to have it and the will to have it and all that kind of reverts back to sports, I think, because you never give up.
Yes.
You work as hard as you can and do the best you can.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to get good clients and repeat business, and I was pretty successful with the horses that I had. And so it just kind of revolved and grew from there. And I never really felt too comfortable with the whole thing until I got this place paid for. Mm-hmm. And that was like a big weight off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. But it took a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of good people that backed me and believed in me. Mm-hmm. And so I think things worked out the way I hoped that they would.
And that's kind of how the dream actually looks like, not what people think it looks like. Yeah. And it comes down a lot of times what I think is how much are you willing to suffer?
Yep,
and
that's true.
Because I'm sure you've heard this. I've heard it is people will come and say, man, I wish I could just ride horses for a living.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
and
yeah. There were people that would come here and say, oh, I want to build something like this. You're making so much money, and they don't understand. You got a shavings bill, you got a feed bill, you got a light bill. You got to pay for utilities, and you got to be able to keep your doors open somehow with all of that coming at you, and once you cut the pie, after you get all your money gathered up and given out, it's pretty small. The end result of it.
And then when you start going to shows, something that I had to learn, and I've had other people mention it to me, other trainers, is the fact that when we go to shows, we have to hire people to maintain home.
Absolutely.
And so that's why, some of the fees we charge people for showing, we have to, because not only is it, as you know, and I discussed earlier, when you go to a show, it's more work than home. And it's hard to believe that after what you've just said.
Yeah.
Home's like, but at the show, you're getting there, you're getting everything set up, hauling stuff in and out of the trailer. It takes you a day to do that.
It does.
And then once you get there, you're normally a couple days early sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get these horses, acclimated to the pins and okay with not looking at this banner or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And you're spending all this time, you might be doing 2 days, 3 days, whatever it takes. And then once the show, and you're getting with your clients, trying to, with us, getting patterns.
Sure.
Make sure this horse is good with the pattern, the owner knows the pattern. And then you're going in there and you're schooling, and then after you get done showing that day and the pen opens back up, you've got to get stuff ready for the next day.
You do.
And it might be, in our case, it might be from trail to reining.
It's like a marathon.
It's a marathon. It is not a sprint.
It is. And you got to love that. You got
part of it.
It is. And so many people don't see that portion of it.
They don't.
They come in the stands and they sit down and
you go around
and go around watching. And they say, "Man, I'd love to be able to do this.
Yeah.
This is fun."
Yeah.
But they don't understand the preparation that it takes and the commitment that you had to give. You're like us. We had to hire help to clean the stalls, feed the horses, make sure everything is good. That's not cheap.
No.
And then when you get to the show, you got to prep everything. Yeah. So you get very little sleep.
Yes.
That week that you're there, or that weekend, or whatever it is, because you want to do your very best, and you want to be prepared.
Yes.
And so you don't leave any stone unturned, and so in order to do that, you got to burn a lot of candles.
You do.
You got to stay up.
You do that. Drink a lot of coffee.
And a lot of coffee.
And average sleep maybe 3, maybe 4 hours a night at max. That's how it is. Because if you're in the first class of the day, and you've been up till midnight, 1 o'clock schooling, and then everything's good there, you get a little bit of sleep, but then you got to get up to feed the horses because you don't want to take them in there on an empty stomach.
Right.
And it's a logistics deal.
It is.
And it is a marathon.
It is. It certainly is. And that's where a lot of people don't get it. They don't see that, and until they've been through it and witnessed it, done it themselves, you have a appreciation to what the trainers actually have to do.
Yes.
And the income that they make is pretty small.
It is.
Compared to the hours that you spend.
Absolutely. If you figure your hourly wage, you might as well forget it.
Oh, yeah.
You go get a job at McDonald's.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
you'll make more.
You will.
Yeah.
You got to love what you do.
Yes.
And really enjoy it in order for this thing to work.
Yeah, you have to have the desire. And, I look at the stall charts at some of the big shows. I mean, they're getting ready to have a reining down at Tulsa. And then they just had the Hack Classic down there in the Cow Horse.
Yeah.
And I look at the stall chart on some of these trainers, and there's some taking 40 and 45 horses.
Oh, sure.
I can't imagine.
Oh, I can't
You'd have
either.
to have an army.
Well, you've got to have a lot of people, and they all have to know their role.
Yes.
They have to know what they got to do, and everything's got to be coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
We take 4 to, well, at the Buckskin World, we took 7 head of horses. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty good load for Linda and I.
It is.
And we try to prep them all ourselves. We try to have the clients ready, just like you do. You prep the horses, you make everything ready, you get them saddled right, you make them look good. Linda does all the banding, puts the tails in, all of that kind of stuff. And we hand the horse over to the client, and we hope that they're ready, and we hope that everything goes well. And if it does, they're so happy for it, But if they're not, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, how come we didn't get this done? How come we didn't do that?" So it's one of them things where the client has to be in.
They do, and they have to help them participate.
They do.
We had one day down there this year because we have a board we set up. That's the only way we keep track of it. And we showed in 14 classes one day.
Oh, my goodness.
Us and our clients.
Oh, my goodness.
14. When we got done, we didn't even know what hit us that day at the end. We're like, okay.
Oh, my.
What did we just do?
Oh, my.
And it was 14.
Oh, my.
Because we had several clients.
Sure.
And then,
Sure.
and I didn't even show in one class.
Sure.
Because we didn't have anything I was going to show this year. My wife showed in a couple. But that was 14. I mean, that is rocking and rolling.
Oh, my. It's never stopped.
No,
never stopped.
It doesn't stop at all.
I think we had 6 in ours, and that was plenty.
Yeah.
If you're saddling or unsaddling or whatever you're doing, we have a lot of young horses, so we do in-hand trail and halter and lunge line and things like that. But still, they all have to be prepped. They all have to have their mane done, their tails done, and the riders have to be ready. So it's not for the weak at heart.
No,
you have to love it, and you have to really be into it to make this thing happen.
Yeah, you got to be a grinder.
You do. You got to be.
You do.
If you're a slacker or lazy, don't get in this.
No. If you don't love it, then when it gets tough, you're not going to have enough desire to push you through that, because you're going to find ways to quit, not to keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, there has got to be a better way to make a living.
Yeah.
So you don't do it because of that. You do it because you love it. And it's like I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I mean, if I could do it over, I've dreamed, just like you, have had a passion for horses since I was a little bitty kid.
Sure.
Yeah. I didn't grow up around horses. We didn't really. We had some, but they had to plow the garden. We didn't even have a tractor. And great grandpa thought if you had a horse that you could ride, but it wouldn't pull a plow, that was dumb.
Yeah. Why would we have it?
Why would we have that? I mean, and so my introduction into horses wasn't until I was about 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't ride without holding on the horn at 21.
Oh, my goodness.
And I quit my job in the aerospace and moved west.
Wow.
And I look back and I'm like, wow, you are not an intelligent individual.
Well,
but I had desire.
Yeah.
And
if you don't do what you love in life, you're missing out.
This is not dress rehearsal.
No.
People don't realize that, and they wake up someday and they're 50 years old and they're like, I've sold my time to something I don't even like.
And so many people do that.
Yep.
So many people in this world.
Most people do that.
They do. And you get up every morning and you go to work to a job that is kind of, I'm doing it, but it's not my passion. It's not really what I love to do. We have the opportunity to do something that we really love.
We do.
And so that's the reason that we don't mind to sweat. We don't mind to work long hours. We don't mind to do what it takes to be successful.
Yeah.
Because you love it.
Yeah.
If I didn't love it, I couldn't be here. I couldn't do it.
Well, you mentioned a while ago that, you have a business degree and then you were a salesman. So there's a lot of people skills there.
Well, there is, and they would send the sales reps to the home office once a month for a weekend for training.
Okay.
And in that training, you learned how to deal with people. You learned how to deal with rejection. You learned how to present yourself and how to sell yourself. A lot of people buy from people that they like. It's not actually the product that's so great, because they have an opportunity to buy all kinds of different products. They buy because they like that person, and that person they trust, and that person they know that will sell them something that will work and will stand behind it. And so you have to have those kind of skills to persuade those people to actually buy your product and at least try it.
Yes.
And so with that type of training, you learn how to deal with all kinds of people, the good and the bad, and how to get yourself in front of them, and how to make them believe that you have a great product.
Yes.
So, and I didn't do that forever, but I did it long enough to know that people like people, and people buy people they like.
They do. And I've heard that they'll buy from someone they know until they know them too well.
That's right.
And that's so interesting.
It is. If you ever lie to somebody, or you ever cheat somebody, it's going to come back eventually. Eventually it'll come around. So I was always raised to be honest. I was always raised to treat people the way you want to be treated. And so that's kind of what I did as a salesman, is if I didn't feel good about that product, I couldn't sell it to you.
Yeah.
I had to know that it would actually work and it would do the job that they needed it to do.
Yeah.
Or whatever the product was. And so, you have to feel good about yourself when you lay down at night. And so anyway, that was one of the steps that I went through life with. I had several different jobs, but that was one that was really good for me, because I understood people and their way of thinking.
And that you have to have that in this business. Either you or your spouse does.
One of you.
Because normally one of you handle the people, one of you kind of handle the training deal.
Right.
Because it takes a team, and it takes a balance.
It does.
And typically we have spouses that kind of offset us a little bit.
They keep us grounded.
Yeah, they keep us grounded. One of us is keeping the other one grounded.
That's right. That's right.
And it takes that in the horse business. A lot of times someone handles the billing and the paperwork and the entering.
Sure.
Like my wife does all the entering.
Oh, so is mine.
Yeah, I don't do any of that. I'm the guy that, hey, I get calls from the buckskin world. Pen says, hey, come in the pen now.
Yep.
I need you to get on this horse and make it better.
Yep.
And now she shows it.
Sure.
She loves showing.
Uh-huh.
She does not care for the training as much, but she loves horse showing.
Yeah.
If we're going to a horse show, she's like skipping.
We're in.
Okay, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And my wife has always been around the horses and stuff, but she's more eat up with it now than she was as a young kid. And a lot of it is we've got some horses, some stock that are pretty good, and she can be successful. And she has learned the skills of teaching the in-hand trail, things like that. And so she takes great pride in teaching that horse to side pass, or teaching that horse to pivot. She's learned all that, how to do that. And so that's rewarding to her. And so, she's sold in. She's ready to show. And so I try to keep nice horses for her, horses that can be successful. But you're a team. You're a team, win or lose. You go down as a team, or you stand up on the podium as a team.
Yeah. that keeping horses for her, that's kind of like mine. She gave her amateur card up.
Oh.
She said, if I do this and teach with you, you have to keep me a horse to show. You have to train me a horse, because we're really bad at, how this goes. Selling your own.
Sure.
And then you're a foot.
Yep.
And then a client can pull one at any time.
Uh-huh.
And you're a foot, and you're like, oh man. And you have to be out there.
Oh, yeah.
You have to keep going.
You got to be in front of people.
You got to keep going.
Yep.
And so we're owning more of our own horses now. And then she helps me teach and stuff too. And she's a good teacher, and she enjoys it.
Yep.
But she enjoys showing more.
Uh-huh.
But it gets her involved in that. And then I try to, I ride full time, and then she gives lessons with me on Friday too.
Sure.
And the hygienist the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And she teaches clinics with us, and that's been a really good deal. I'm glad she gave up her card.
Sure.
And it's a good balance.
Yeah. It's interesting, because people want to have a trainer that has been successful and is successful. If you don't win once in a while, and you're kind of at the bottom of the pole, you don't get as many clients, and you don't get as many good clients, and you don't get as many good horses. If you are kind of always up there, kind of toward the top, battling for first or second, or just, being real competitive, you have a greater opportunity to get some of those really nice horses.
And you have to have nice horses now.
To.
More than ever. If you don't have nice horses, I mean, it is very, very tough, even in the amateur divisions.
Yeah.
To compete.
Yeah, an average animal anymore can't hardly make it.
Not you'll have a unicorn every once in a while, but for the most part, they're that way because they're bred.
They're bred for it. They're bred to do that. You know, a reining horse is bred to know how to slide, and a Western Pleasure horse knows how to keep that head down, slow cadence. You know, engage his body.
They want to go slow.
They want to.
Yeah.
You know, they want to. They're not a runaway.
Yeah.
And so the breeding is just as important as anything is.
It is.
And then the training is easier when you have one that's bred that way.
Well, yeah, it's just like training good athletes.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean,
that's right.
I mean, in the coaching world, I know some coaches, you know, good friends of mine, and they'll tell you, hey, you know, it's a lot easier when you have athletes.
Sure.
You still have to coach them.
Yep.
But it's like on horses. You get one that wants to lope around with his neck at his wither.
Sure.
That's less things I have to fix.
Absolutely.
Because he wants to put it there. If he wants to drive his hock up under him, and he's a good mover, guess what else he does? He's probably going to change leads.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just, why not start with the best you can afford?
You know, the natural moving animals is so much easier for us to train. I had a football coach say one time, hand patting the ball, don't throw him the ball. He doesn't have good hands to catch it. Hand him the ball and he'll get what you need done. Horses are the same way.
They are.
You know, you do what they do best. You can't make something that's not there.
No.
I mean, you can kind of get by once in a while, but the top level, if they don't have it in them, you're out.
No. And if you put it in perspective, like say if you tell someone, they say, I want to win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to go buy a Tennessee Walker.
No, they will not.
Okay, and they understand that.
Sure.
But if you tell them, hey, don't buy that reining bred horse just like that, so strong reining, if you want to do the cow horse.
That's right.
Because they're going to do okay in the reining, but you have two other events, a herd work and down the fence.
Yep.
And they're not going to have enough cow in it. They're going to be asking you what to do the whole time. And there are exceptions. But for the most part, that's why they don't get that.
No.
And that's really hard. And then we're in the ranch horse classes. We're a lot. Anymore, you have to have a good mover.
Yep.
You have to have something big and pretty and moves pretty because you have to have something that gets the attention.
Yep.
And it has to do all of it a little bit.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
You have to do the ranch reining, the ranch trail, the ranch rail.
Yep.
The ranch riding. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that they're doing. And now the cow event, it's not as much of a beauty pageant, you know, as it is functionality.
Right.
But you have to, and that's our main clients. And I don't know if you've got into any of the ranch horse stuff. Have you got a little bit into that?
Very little. I like to watch it, and I enjoy it. I did do some ranch pleasure a time or two, and I like that because you can extend them out there, and hand gallop them kind of thing, and then bring them back. Yeah. That's kind of fun for me because normally a pleasure horse, you don't want them to do that. Yeah. But I've had a few that's got the long mane and kind of got the look, and so I've done just a little bit of it. But yeah, I enjoy that as well. And
you think you'll get more into that as time goes on, or where do you see it?
Maybe, it's so popular. I mean, it is something that has kept the horse show industry going.
I was going to ask you what your opinion was on that.
Yes. If you don't have the ranch classes involved in your horse show, you're probably going to fail. You got to have that side of it now because they bring so many clients and so many different people to it. It's made it stronger. It's made it strong, and I think it's good for the people to see it. People sitting in the stands, they like to watch those horses move out a little bit.
They do.
They like to watch that kind of thing. Yeah, more action.
I will say, if it wasn't for the ranch horse classes, I mean, our business would have hurt bad because everything else has got what you said, a little more specialized.
Oh, yeah.
Because so you have the reining and they're blowing up.
Sure.
And the cow horse is blowing up and it's getting specialized. And I look to see in the future that the ranch riding is going to maybe get a little more,
even more
specialized.
Yeah. It will.
And I like it, but it does tell you have to step up your game. And then they will start specializing those breedings more. Even the rope horse futurities. There was a rope horse futurity the other day that paid 6 figures to win.
Oh my!
A rope horse futurity. Whew. And a long time ago, all you had was open rodeos for roping, and then you had jackpots and the numbering system.
Yep.
And now we have rope horse futurities.
Sure.
And I like it because it gives us more avenues. If a horse doesn't work, we have more places to go with that horse.
To put him in a different place.
The rodeo has breakaway roping now. Well, those horses don't have to be real big. They have to score well and run and stop.
Yeah.
Just on a cow.
Well, that way you don't have to discard a nice horse just because he can't do one thing.
Yep.
You can move him somewhere else into a different discipline.
So it's good for everybody.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's really good for everybody.
Yeah.
And
makes the industry stronger.
it does. And more options for the horse. That way he doesn't have to just do nothing or be discarded.
Right.
I always think there's something for every horse.
Oh,
it might be a trail horse for grandma or whatever, but there's some place for all of them. And some of them like to buck, and there's a rodeo circuit for that.
Oh, sure there is. Yeah, if they don't want to quit bucking, plug them in and put a flank strap on them and let them go.
I heard a stock contractor tell me one time that they go through, when they were getting the worst of the worst, not raising bucking horses, but sour horses that people says, oh, this one, he'll make a good one.
Yeah.
You know how many they had to go through to get one to consistently buck 8 seconds? 200.
Oh, my.
One in every 200
Isn't that
would
something?
work.
Would work.
That's how much a horse really doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And
It's hard work.
It's hard work.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
But now they're breeding him.
Well, sure.
Just like we breed him to stop and turn, that they breed him to
Same way with the bulls.
Oh, man.
They breed the bulls up to be really bad.
Yeah, I don't know how those guys even ride those anymore.
I don't either.
They're like gymnasts.
Yes. I mean, they're so flexible. They're just like a yo-yo up there. I mean, so, it's just the industry has revolved so much over the last 15, 20 years differently. And it's a lot stronger. I mean, I think it's, it's like the athletes that we see in the Olympics. They're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger. The times are getting beat that was there for years. The horses are the same way. The animals are. They're breeding them up.
They are. So when you got into horses in training, so you got the farm, you guys bailed in, all in.
Yep.
And built the stall barn. So where did you learn to train horses?
It's kind of like you take a little bit from everybody. If I went to your farm and I could sit and watch you, there's a little something I can take from you that will help me. And so what I would do is I would go maybe the night before or the day before or the day of or the middle of the night. I would go and sit in these arenas and watch these trainers, the big trainers, the best trainers. That's when
the good stuff happens.
That's where it happens.
Yeah.
If you're sleeping at night, you're missing out. If you get up in the middle of the night and sneak down there to those arenas, that's when the big boys are riding. And that's when they're tuning those horses to get ready for the next day. And if you sit and watch them and watch how they're maneuvering those horses and getting them to set their hips over or getting them to get that head down, if you can watch how they do that, that'll help you so much. But if you sleep through that, you missed out. And so that's what I would do is I would go and I'd sit on the rail and just observe. And I would just try to observe the best ones, the ones that are winning, and why are they winning and how are they doing it. And so then I would take that home and I would try it at home. And it's a trial and error kind of thing. It's kind of like trying different bits on horses. You try this, that didn't work. You try that. And so you finally make or come up with a plan that works for me, just for me. And it may not work for you, but this works for me. This makes this horse do this for me. I can maneuver him this way. And what doesn't work, you throw it away and you go try to get something else. You go ride with people and you ask them, hey, what do you do here? And you pick their brain. And eventually you form your own kind of a program. And if it's working and you're winning, great. If not, and you can always improve all the time, you say, okay, you have a good way of getting your horse to collect. I need to go ride with you for a couple of days. Tell me how you get that done. And so, you always are digging and scratching and trying to figure it out, and you're always asking questions. You can't be bashful. You have to get out there and ask and try. And that's kind of how I formed my thing. You ride enough of these young colts, and they're consistently doing this thing wrong. Every colt you get on, well, it's not them, it's me. Yes. I'm the one that's wrong. I'm the one that's teaching it wrong.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out how to correct that. And so if you're willing to ask and observe and to keep scratching and digging, eventually you figure it out. Or somebody tells you how to do it, and you learn from them. And then that's part of your program. And you just keep building that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I did it. It's not that I went to school and anything. It's more than wet saddle blankets.
Yes.
working late and working hard and not giving up on one that's kind of average and because you can make them great if you know how to teach the right thing and how to get it's not making them, it's asking them the right way. So that's kind of how I did it.
And I can relate. I worked for one trainer for about 2.5 years, but it was in the cutting.
Okay.
Other than that,
Sure.
I now look back and I'm like, man, I could have probably saved myself a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and bologna and cheese sandwiches if I would have done that. But we are what we are.
We are,
and we have to own what we did. But But horses have taught me more than anything.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, horses, and now I go and get mentorship. I travel to different mentors of mine, and today I went and rode with a good friend of mine, and we swapped horses. And we rode them around, and I had one that I needed some opinions on, and she had one that she needed some opinions on, and we swapped, and we said, hey, we got to do this more often.
Yeah.
They said, well, she told me, she said, what I love is horse shows and this. Mm-hmm. Just riding by yourself all the time, it's hard. It's a grind.
It is hard.
It's a mental grind.
Yeah.
To be disciplined and to also not get caught up. Because no one's watching you.
Right.
So unless you've got a video camera over there, the only way you get tested is when you go to a judge.
Yep.
And you can get real comfortable, and you can push one too fast. You can bring one too slow. You can not be keeping him malleable in the mind. And then he gets real complacent. And then when you do ask, you know how that goes.
Sure.
And so it's very hard by yourself. There's another trainer at my barn, and before that, I was there by myself.
Yep.
Before she came on, but we bounce things off one another and we help one another, and it's definitely a benefit at my barn, and it's very tough to do things by yourself.
I had a 2-year-old here that I've only had about 30 days, and I felt like she was coming along pretty good. And I felt like she was collecting, she was listening, she was starting to get it together. So we hauled her to a show just for the riding experience, just to be there and get in that atmosphere. She was a loon. I mean, she wanted to run off. She wanted to not listen. She didn't want to pay attention. She was scared of everything.
You mean that happens to you too?
And it took me all weekend to get her where she was starting to focus and starting to listen. And if you don't get them out of that little comfort zone and take them a few times, you're in for a big surprise if you've got them in a futurity and you're getting ready to go in the gate and this thing's wide-eyed and you think, oh my God, I didn't get her trained.
Yeah.
And so you got to haul them. You got to go.
Boy, you do have to haul them.
And at home, they can be perfect. And you think they are. And you kind of get yourself blindsided by saying, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. But that horse, if it's never been anywhere, you're getting ready to get a surprise.
Right. I tell people all the time, I said, your kid might listen at home, but take him to Walmart.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Sometimes I said, you got to whip them at Walmart.
You do. You do.
And hauling them young horses, someone that's never done it, that's always had finished horses, it's a whole new world to them. They're like, this is a bad horse. I said, no, all that's been done on your horse before you got it.
Yeah.
Because us, in our events, where we have to go faster, I would say we have to haul one a year.
Oh.
But the first year is just hauling, and sometimes you show them, sometimes you just run around the pen.
Yep.
And sometimes you don't even enter. You just ride them, in between other classes, and that horse don't know. You're just trying to get him. I remember my first trip to town.
Sure.
I was a little wide-eyed too.
Yeah. The clients have to be acclimated to that. They got to realize that they're going to have to spend a little bit of money to invest in that horse to go, because it costs. You got to buy a stall, you got to buy shavings. You got hauling expense.
Yep.
They have to go through that, and if they're not willing to do that,
the rest is pointless.
It's pointless.
The cheapest thing you do is buy the horse.
That's right. Exactly right. If they don't allow you to take it several times before you ever try to show it, then they need to do something else.
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever had one that I could pull out of my barn that's never been anywhere and go win.
No.
It just don't happen.
No, he would have a horn sticking out of his head, and we'd clone him. He'd be a unicorn.
He would. He would.
Yeah, that doesn't happen, and that frustrates a lot and people because they're like, he's good.
Yeah.
I said, and they'll even say he's good in the warm-up pen at the show.
Yeah.
I said, walk him in there.
And
I said, you'll lose 50% of your horse when you walk through that gate. We've all felt it.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, what in the world have I signed up for?
Yep. And at Tulsa, where the air conditioners are going,
oh gosh,
I mean, that's like giving them a new life.
Yeah, imagine. So every year in the raining, normally they have a run-in pattern. So it's hotter than Hades, and we run in 68 degrees, full throttle on a run-in pattern, and I have to say, whoa, and he's supposed to stop.
He's supposed to stop.
Yeah. All right, we're back here. We had to take we took just a little short break here, had some clients show up. But I think we were somewhere talking about schooling horses. I'm not sure, but I think we were talking about the value in that and how much we got to haul these horses down the road before we ever show them, and how much money's spent in that. And if you don't spend it, of course, you go ahead and show them when they're not ready and they're going to get bad habits in the pen, then you're going to end up spending it later, just putting them back in the pen, pulling on them and having them have a good experience.
Absolutely. You know, your clients have to understand that they have to buy into this program, and it costs a little bit of money to get them to the point where they need to be. And so if you don't haul them, you don't expose them to things, if you keep them at home and don't get them out, it's going to bite you, and your success rate is going to be very slim. So you have to get them out there. You have to let them see the sights. You have to get them in different pens, different areas. You just can't ride them at home all the time. You got to season them, and in order to do that, it costs a little bit of money, but it'll pay off in the long run. If they allow you to do that, they allow you to go. They allow you to get kind of goofy and kind of crazy and get over it. Then you got a shot at making this thing happen and be good for them.
Well, it's like the young horse you were talking about before we had the break. You said you had it really broke at home.
Oh, I thought he was great.
Felt great.
Yeah.
And you go up there and you're like, oh, my goodness, what have I done?
Scared of everything. Everything. I mean, banging and clanging and people walking and other horses making noise and, just the whole surroundings, the whole environment. She couldn't relax. You know, she got nervous. She got sweaty. The owners were there and they got to see all this and witness it. And I said,
that's good.
That's the thing. That's a great beauty of this is you're getting to see the first time out of the barn. And so I said, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep going. We can't quit. And you got to ride them every day while you're there, a couple times a day if you can while you're there, and let them go through that. And then the next time it should be a little bit easier, a little bit nicer, and not quite as bad. I noticed Sunday wasn't quite as bad as Saturday. Small improvement. Next time we go, hopefully it'll be a little more of an improvement. But your client has to understand all those things, and they have to allow you to do that.
And you know what's on the other side because you've been in this industry enough, and that's the other thing. A lot of times a client will see something like it and says, hey, do we need to sell it? This horse is bad. No, it's a very normal thing.
It's very normal.
I heard a famous reining horse trainer, and this guy's won millions, and he said he schools on average 8 times for every time he shows.
I believe that.
And now that's top horses.
Yeah.
I mean, top, and they will keep them horses back for the shows that they want to win at.
Sure.
We talk a lot about going to local shows to school where it's cheap, it's more affordable. You still have hauling, but you're going to have it.
Right.
But you can go in there, and normally they're scary pens. You might be down at Benton County down here, and it's dark around the outside, and stuff like that has buck and shoots in it.
Yep.
But you can get some value out of it.
Oh, my.
And especially they don't have a warm-up pen, so you're going to have to do that a little bit fresh.
Yep, and that's true. It's one of those things where it's like you're taking your child, like you said, to Walmart. If he never has been, he's going to be grabbing everything, wanting to run around. The horse deal is no different. They have to get scared. They have to be frightened. They have to work through those things, and then pretty soon they're going to realize it's okay. Everything's all right. It's just a different place. Everything's okay. And once they learn that, then you can make something of them. But until you go through that, you better hang on the saddle horn.
Yep. And you got to go with them, and you've got to not reaffirm to them that they need to be scared.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. People go to kicking on them and jerking on them. So now you have a horse.
Cause a problem.
Yeah, you have a horse that's scared of a banner.
Yep.
And now you're hell-bent on riding it straight at it and kicking it in the belly.
Yeah.
So he's like, yep, I knew it was a scary place. And that I see a lot of mistakes. And versus just, hey, we've got 3 days.
Yep.
Let's just ride him. Matter of fact, we'll ride him away from the banner. If he wants to go away from it, we'll do our deal. We're going to do what we want to do today, but it don't have to be. It can be where they want to be.
Sure.
But when we get off and rest, it's going to be nearer to that.
Yeah.
you know.
You know what we do, especially our young horses, is we lead them in there on foot, walk them around the perimeter of everything. Take a hold of those banners and shake them a little bit and let them see all that, let them feel that. We do that on the ground, and then when you ride them in there, it's a little bit different being on their back, but at least they have been there, and at least they had seen that.
Both eyes.
Yes, with both eyes, and so it kind of helps. But yeah, every break, every time you get a chance after the show, before the show, get them in those places. Don't be afraid, because if you don't do that, your training process is going to take you much longer, and getting them ready to show will be much longer.
Yeah, I noticed something here several years ago, and I was talking to someone about this just the other day. I have noticed through my non-pros and amateurs that if there are people who work on their horse a lot at home by themselves, their horses, once they get them pretty broke, they stay pretty honest in the show pen a lot longer than, say, my horses. There's always other horses in the pen at my place. Now, on the other side of that, in the rail classes, ranch rail and stuff, where we have several horses in, where their horses get a little worried. Mine just think it's another day at the office, and we're in the warm-up pen. And I have found that people that ride by themselves a lot, I feel like it takes longer to have to school. They can ride those horses a lot longer period of time. Maybe they take them and show them at 5 or 6 shows before that horse starts getting them any problem, because they ride home all the time by themselves. And they haul places. Maybe they rent a pen. It's just them. They're kind of loners. But they'll eventually have to do it. But now in the rail class, they said, man, my horse is getting sour in the rail class. I mean, they can almost hear what they're calling out and getting ahead of me and not liking the other horses. So it's kind of a catch-22 there.
It is, and I'm at a little bit of disadvantage here unless I can get Linda to ride with me, or I can get another client to come out and ride too. And I try to encourage that, especially with the young ones. If we can get 2 or 3 of us out there going different directions, doing different things, and just let them absorb that. That's really important. And because when I do rail classes. So when we do go to the show and we're in that warm-up pen and we got 47 people in there and half of them are going one way and half the other way, at least they don't flip out and lose their mind.
That's right.
They have already kind of witnessed some of that. So it's really important, I think, especially the guy that has to ride by himself. If he can get his buddies or get his friends or at least get more than just himself involved in part of that training thing, it's much easier, much better.
And that's real fortunate where I'm at, because, the other trainer may be putting the first ride on a colt. So it grabs itself and takes off, and I'm working on turns right over here. And those horses, it's just, it's not a big deal.
Everyday deal.
If she puts the saddle in on one and it starts bucking and bawling, well, I can keep riding, because mine, there's a lot of chaos. There is a lot of chaos.
And that's kind of good.
It is. It helps a lot. It has its advantages. But like I said, I did notice when you go to hauling these horses and showing them, it doesn't take as long.
Right. Yeah. And you're right in that respect. And again, I'm a firm believer of going other places than just your own. Ride in different places. I ride out in the middle of the field. I'll take my horses out of my arena, and I go out in the wide open pasture and ride. And if my colt can lope around nice and slow and collected out in that wide open field and see all the other horses out in the field, and some of them might be running or grazing or whatever they're doing, if I can just change the environment for them, it helps.
Because that's a lot.
It's a lot for a young
Especially when horses take off running. If you can gather horses on horses, your horse is getting pretty broke.
He's getting broke. He's getting broke. Yep. I won a futurity on a 2-year-old a few years ago, and I'd done most of my riding, and I'd done this on like a 60-day training process, but I did this out in the wide open, and I would lope that colt out in the grass, and I jogged him in the grass. I did everything outside in the wide open spaces where there were no fences, and when we went to the arena, it was like a piece of cake. But she was used to listening to me and following what I do and relaxing with me. And so there's something to be said about changing up where you ride and the environment you ride in. So
at Buckskin World this year, I had to get after my wife because you guys were all in the warm-up pen that one night, and there was a friend of hers down there, and he was tuning on one pretty good, and he said, "Hey, will you get on this horse and just be nice to it?" And and just kind of let it do whatever. I want to check it out. Just be nice to it. And she said, okay. So she got on it, and it was kind of hot and spicy. Oh. And she goes to open it. Well, it had been shown in the reining some. So you're coming down the rail on the left-hand side of the arena. And my wife comes around the end, and she said, he said, be nice to it. And I'm watching her, and she that horse starts running off with her, thinking it's doing a rundown. And it's headed like parallel with you, but it's only going to miss you by about 5 foot. And this horse is running down through there, and she just got her hand down, and it's running off. And right before she got to you, she's like, okay, I can't take it anymore. And she said, whoa, and pulled on it, and it stopped, and it slid, and it threw dirt and everything up on your horse and everything. And you looked up and your eyes got big and you didn't know what was happening. And I told her, I said, he had no idea you was coming flying up behind him. But your horse handled it real well, and you just kind of kept doing what you were doing. But my wife calls it the stink eye. There'll be someone in there riding on the rail real quiet in the Mustang, and I'll come in there and be running around, and she said, hey, you better quit it. They're kind of giving you the stink eye. And I said, well, hey, look, we're at a horse show. I got to get mine warmed up too.
That's right.
And I said, we get ours broke. They need to get
theirs broke.
I said, I'm not running into them. But I thought that was funny. I told her, I said, hey, you need to go tell Stan you're sorry. I said, that dirt went all over that banner and hit his horse in the rear end, and that horse was a saint.
I didn't realize she was coming, that's for sure. But those young horses, if they can take that, that means a lot. That shows a lot. If you got a young one, that's good experience for them. If you can stay with them.
If you can stay with them. Yeah. I know there was a couple late nights this year that you were in there and I was in there, and I think Fred was in there. And it was just pretty much us, maybe my wife. Yeah. And I like going in there then. You have to wait a little longer because there's a rush.
Oh, there is.
And then if you'll just wait.
Yep. If you wait till people go to bed.
Yeah.
Then
they go to bed, and then you'll have another little, not really a rush, but you have the wolves that come in a little bit later.
Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of late and then later is what I am. And usually my later, there's not many of us in there. Yeah. And so you can kind of get whatever you want done. Yeah. But it's a challenge to get everybody on the same page and get all your horses prepared for the next day and get your clients on board. Mm-hmm. So, and they don't realize how much time you spend getting that accomplished. And sometimes they're not too appreciative of what you do. But that's part of the training.
It is. And talking about clients, we've talked about the value of good clients, and I can attest to that. I mean, we couldn't do it without them.
Right.
It's pretty hard to own all your own horses.
It is.
And there's some people that do, but we try to have a few of our own. But man, good clients, they're worth their weight in gold.
They're valuable,
and they're very valuable, and they like the process. They're involved, and they care, and all of them can be involved at different levels. Some of them like to ride, some of them just want to be an owner.
I've got a client the same way. She owns several horses that are here. She's an older lady, loves to go and watch. She lets me do my thing. She doesn't get involved in telling me how to train, how to do things. She lets me do it my way, but she loves to sit up there and watch her horses perform, and she loves to win. But she's a dear lady, and she has several nice show horses with us. And it's fun to take her. We pick her up at the hotel. We bring her back to the stall. We make sure she's got something to eat. We make sure she's comfortable, that kind of thing. But she's kind of our bread and butter. Yeah. And she's been with us for several years. And so it's fun to have people like that. Yeah. You kind of need to have one or two that are the steadfast people that stay with you no matter what.
And the people, everybody, they come on and we deal with a lot of times very successful people.
Sure.
Because that's why they can afford it.
Yeah.
And so this is a new challenge for them.
Sure.
And sometimes it teaches them a lot of patience because, maybe everything else in their life, you just look up the formula and you do the formula, you get the result.
Right.
But with a horse, it can be quite quite different.
Altogether different. Altogether different. And the people that are new to the industry, it takes them a little while to kind of learn all that.
It does.
You just don't walk in and win.
And if you do, that could be the worst thing.
Oh, the worst thing, because then they expect it all the time.
All the time.
And then they start giving you more horses and more pressure is put on you. The best clients for me is the clients that can't afford it, for one, but give me the time and the patience and the steadfast to stay with me until we get that horse really ready and to accomplish things.
And to understand they don't all make it.
Right.
I mean, you can buy some that's supposed to make it on paper.
Oh, my, yeah.
And it's supposed to work. And it's just, it just
not
doesn't
there.
work.
Not there. Get that with the horses. Sometimes, no matter what the breeding is, they didn't read that paper.
No.
They don't get it.
They can't read.
They can't read.
They don't even know the plan you're fixing to do with them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so some of them are natural, some of them are not.
Yeah.
So it's just like people.
Yeah.
Some of them are smart, some of them are not.
Yeah.
And so you hope that you got something in there that will work and do well for you. But if it doesn't, you have to be honest and you have to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this horse is going to make it.
Yeah.
I don't think this horse has got what it takes. And they have to realize that. Maybe another trainer might be able to get it out of them, but I cannot, I don't feel. And I don't want you to spend a whole lot more money with me thinking that we're going to win because it may not be there.
Yep.
So
now you've just retired.
Yep.
From your other job that you had.
Yep.
And so you were working full time and doing this pretty much full time too. Two full time jobs.
Yep.
So you've just retired. So what's going to happen now? How does it look now?
Well, a little bit scary. I've worked in town for 30 some years, various jobs, and then when I got off of work, I would come home and work half the night with these horses. Now I don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can get up at 6 and it's okay. I can still get my horses rode during the daylight hours, and which is unusual. Most of the time I'm out here till way after dark. So it's an adjustment. I really like it. I enjoy it. I don't want to get lazy. So I'm trying to keep myself geared up and maybe take on another horse or two, maybe just, do a little bit better job at my craft, spend a little bit more time with them as opposed to feel like I'm under pressure and I got 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I can spend an hour if I need to. And so the beauty of that is I think I can get them broke better. I think I can present them better. I think it'll be a overall better picture for me. And I think I'm going to enjoy it more.
Any new goals with that, now that you're full-time training?
I always like to compete and I always like to win. As far as like moving up into the class where the big guys are, the big guns, it's okay if I don't. If I get the right horse, the right client, the right mix, I would like to go and compete. The NSBA, the AQHA world. I'd like to do that. But if I don't ever get there, it's okay. As I was younger, that was my goal constantly. But it's okay if I don't ever make that.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with where we're at. I don't feel the pressure of having to make that payment for that barn or have to make the payment for this or for that. Life is a little more enjoyable, not quite as stressful.
Yes.
And so that alone is a nice goal.
Yeah. So speaking of stress, what's your hobbies?
Well, I guess it's going to be my grandkids.
Yeah.
3 years ago, our granddaughter was born, and we purchased a POA pony for her.
Okay.
A colt. That pony now is broke to ride, and she's to the point where she almost can ride it by herself. Now we have a grandson, and this week I purchased another POA pony, and so I guess my goal is to watch our grandchildren grow up and hopefully enjoy. And not necessarily compete and make money and be trainers, but to enjoy the animals and enjoy being able to ride and do things. And now I get to go to ball games and watch them, and I get to go to school functions and watch them. Before, I felt like I was stuck at this barn in training.
Married to it.
You're married to it. So now I don't feel like I'm that way now. I can get my stuff done during the day. The evenings we can go eat dinner if we want to. We can go to a movie if we want to. I can't remember when we ever went to a movie, just because I felt like I had to be here. So yeah.
No hobbies?
Not really. I don't
golf,
fish. I don't fish. I don't golf.
Hunting?
I like to hunt once in a while. I do. Pheasant, quail.
Okay.
That type of thing. This part of the country, it's hard to find those type of things. You have to go to Kansas or somewhere like that. Yeah. But I do enjoy that. But I'm not a fisherman, and I'm not a hunter, and I'm not a swimmer. But just being around family and just being able to maybe sit back in a chair and relax once in a while. Yeah. That would be a great hobby.
Hey, that's fair enough.
I've got brand new lawn furniture up at the house, and I think I've set it in a handful of times. So now maybe I can wear a chair out.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a lot of awards around here, hanging up in here in your little office here, and in kitchenette. So what's one of your biggest achievements? What are you most proud of?
Years ago when I first started in this business, there was a lady that lived at Neosho, and she's now passed away. She was my number one client and number one supporter when I first started this business, and she's the one that kind of helped keep me going, and she's the one that kind of broke the ice to get me recognized, and her horses meant. They meant a lot to me at that time because her horses got me more business. There was a mare that we were like a 3-time world champion with. She had another one that we were a world champion with. And so she done more for me than I think a handful of clients could have done or a handful of horses could have done. Just because, and she gave me that support. She let me do it my way. She didn't get involved in how to do things. She said, here they are. You do what you can do with them, and I'm going to support you and be behind you. And so it's hard to pay her back for something like that. Such a nice person. But she was my backbone to get this thing going. And from then, other clients evolved. People want to go to people that are successful, and she made me successful.
So what could you tell, with all the horse market getting bigger and stuff like that, and due to Hollywood and all events that's happened, we've got $1 million events going on now, and Yellowstone, the movie, and or the TV show, and all that. It's really promoted the Western industry. So with that, there's been a lot of younger people and people wanting to get into it. And some, I believe, want to get into it, and they're playing the long game, and some are playing the short game.
Sure.
And as you know, by now, you can't do a short game with horses because it's a skill that's learned, and it's not something you can read a book on.
Right.
And then you have the formula. Then now you can perform with a license.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
No.
It's a skill that takes a long time. So what would your advice be to anybody that's, wanting to, maybe it's a young person, high school, college, heck, at any point in the game, wanting to get into the horse industry? What would your advice be to them as far as how to get started and what's some of the first things they could do?
We've had a lot of phone calls over the years of families and people call. We want to buy a horse. We want to buy our child a horse for Christmas. We get that all the time. The first thing I think they need to do, especially if they've never been around a horse or never have ridden a horse or don't know much about a horse, the best thing they can do is go find someone that does lessons. Learn from someone that is very skilled, that can give you all the basics. Let you learn how to saddle one, how to take care of one, how to groom one, the proper way to get on and the proper way to ride, and see if that is still a bug. Sometimes you realize later that this is not for me. And why buy the horse now if you don't really know that it's going to be a long term, or you're still going to like it 6 months from now. But so many people do. So many people jump out there. They buy a saddle. They buy a horse. They buy a bridle. They buy all this stuff, and the first thing that happens is they get their arm broke, or the horse runs off with them and scares them to death, and they don't want to ever get on again. So now you got a horse you got to get rid of. Don't get in that trap. Go take you some lessons. Go get you some advice from people. Go learn about the horses before you ever buy one, and don't buy one right away. Mm-hmm. Get your lessons made and figure out if you really like it, and can I afford to keep one? Mm-hmm. Can I afford to actually have one? And where could I keep one at? You can't keep it in your backyard. So all those things you have to kind of figure out before you actually want to go make that purchase. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times people make the purchase before they ever figure out where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, and they buy the horse, and I think with buying a horse, I don't care if you've got to pay someone as a consultant.
Yep.
It's cheap.
Oh my goodness.
It's cheap.
Oh yeah.
Because if you think you're going to read the book on how to buy a horse, and because people do.
Oh
people
yeah.
do.
Absolutely.
And it's buy once, cry once.
Yep.
Yeah. Because otherwise, trying to save money, I've seen people spend more. And it's all about money.
Sure.
But buy the best you can afford.
Yep.
And get with someone that you trust.
Yeah.
And if you don't know them, get references.
Sure.
Call, check them out.
Yep.
Vet them.
Yeah, and something else you really need to do is go and try that horse out a few times. Mm-hmm. Don't go buy it the first time. Mm-mm. If they drugged it or doped it up or they done something to it, go unannounced and go see that horse. And because some of these people prey on people that don't know.
They do.
And so they're going to sell you something that is not for you. And why risk your child on a horse that you're unfamiliar with, that you have no skill on how to ride it? So you're right. Hire you a consultant or whatever you want to call them, somebody that actually knows. Take them with you to go evaluate, and then ride it a time or two before you ever make that purchase. And then also, I think after you do make that purchase, make sure that they guarantee the soundness of the horse. There's nothing wrong with it and the lameness of it, because they'll sell you one that might limp 2 days later. So take someone with you that knows.
Yeah. And that's another good thing you brought up. As a beginner, if a horse needs maintenance, and people oftentimes, they want a horse that's broke that'll take care of their kids, but they want it to have the x-rays of this 2-year-old that's never been rode.
Right.
Super clean.
Right.
And all that. And what they end up doing is they get something that's clean, but it bucks them off.
Yep.
Because it's not broke. It hasn't been rode.
Right.
Just like you and I, we probably wouldn't vet check.
Yeah.
Either one of us.
Yeah.
Because
we wouldn't vet out.
We wouldn't vet at all, but
No.
we're all right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
so we're old.
Yeah, we're old. But people, I feel like a lot of times they don't understand that you don't want one that's lame that you can't show. But if one needs some maintenance and things like that, you got to find out what that consists of, and if you're willing to commit to that also. Right. And you might get 5 to 6, 7 years out of it.
Right.
And that might be the best thing you could have bought, and you're still going to pay for it.
Sure.
And the reason it has some things wrong with it, maybe a little bit, is because it has been hauled up and down the road and it's been used.
Right. We helped a family not too long ago. They wanted to buy a horse for their granddaughter, and they actually purchased a horse on their own, and it didn't work out. And so we happened to know of an 18-year-old gelding that was an ex-show horse that had been there, done that kind of thing, but the people were actually moving, and they didn't want the horse any longer. Nothing was wrong with it. He was just an older show horse, and he did require a little bit of maintenance. But anyway, I told them to come and ride it a few times. Don't buy it right away. Come and ride it. And they did. They rode it several times. And I took them out in the wide open. I took them everywhere I could think of to make sure that little girl could handle it. And that was one of the best purchases they've ever made, because they constantly send me pictures and they show me this little girl riding this horse all by herself. And she doesn't have a lot of skills, but the horse is gentle. He's quiet. He's pliable. He listens to them, and he's not a runaway.
Yeah, he's going to teach them more than they teach him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was a perfect match.
Yeah.
You don't always get that opportunity to do that.
No.
Very seldom. But this worked out really, really well. And they paid quite a bit of money for this horse, but it was well money spent. Well,
and green on green doesn't work.
No.
And people will often, let's learn together. Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah, I heard a guy tell me green on green is black and blue.
You know what? That's true. Yeah. That is true.
They said that's what that ends up making.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't work like that. And I will compare it to if you can bring me your horse and I can help it in 10 minutes, you can mess it up in 10.
Yeah.
because the horse doesn't know who the trainer is.
Right.
And that's just
Sure.
that's just how it is. That's
true.
horsemanship.
That really is. That really is. And people don't understand that. That, like you say, they see the movie, they see the shows on television. They think, oh, we can do this. Let's go get this one.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they got hospital bills.
Yeah.
And we got to get rid of this horse.
Yeah.
So now they call you and they say, we got a horse for sale. We got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
They just don't go through the proper channels of actually checking it out.
And good counsel.
Oh, yeah.
Seeking counsel and seeking good counsel.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely
two
deals.
You
find
right
out
there.
who's honest and who's not.
Yes. And good counsel. I mean, it's worth a lot.
It's very valuable. Very valuable.
And we all need counsel. We weren't born knowing what to do on all this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Well, Stan, it's getting a little bit later here. Maybe not for you, but my wife probably wonders where I'm at.
It's
I've made
time to eat.
Big circle today. Yeah. Eat supper, and I sure appreciate you sitting down with me. And I've been meaning to do this for a while. I think I even talked to you a year ago.
Sure.
At the World Show about it, and finally I was like, you know what? We'll just do it at your home. You're not far from me. We rarely see each other.
I know.
Unless we're at a horse show, but we're probably 20 miles or less. Probably less from one another.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you sitting down here. You've got a great thing going, and I sure admire your work ethic and everything, and always have heard good things about you. And I think if anybody would like to talk to anybody about in the horse industry, they could sure reach out to you. Do you have any kind of Facebook or anything, or social media?
I am on Facebook. Stan Patton Quarter Horses.
Okay.
Linda has us on what is
Instagram?
All that? Maybe Instagram. Okay. I'm not for sure, but yeah, I'm kind of the old school. I can push the buttons and turn my phone on and talk to you.
Yeah.
And I can finally make on Messenger, but I'm not really skilled at all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but no, we're on Facebook. And
Stan Patton.
Stan Patton Quarter Horses.
Quarter Horses. Okay.
And so, be more than happy to talk to somebody or work with them or whatever.
Yeah.
And you've got a wonderful thing going down there. I mean, we have different disciplines that we do.
We do.
But we end up at the shows a lot of times across from each other.
Yeah.
And it's always fun and neat to see you. So
it's always good to have the conversations, and we for sure see each other at Tulsa every year when it's
every
good
year.
and hot.
Right.
Good and hot.
In July.
Yeah, in July in Tulsa. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a cow horse trainer I'd met in Nevada, and he said, I got to come back and show in Tulsa. And it was last year. I said, you ever been to Tulsa in July? No? I said,
it's an experience.
Yeah, it'll be lots of deodorant.
Yes. I
said, it's not dry
That's
like
right.
out here.
That's right. There's a lot of water.
There's a lot of water. But anyway, well, we're going to let you go. And I sure appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.